Hey folks, Mr. Dell here. We are looking at a problem that has to do with looking at the steps of a calculations and determining which property is identified within each of those steps. Okay, so this problem is coming from CPM, and this is course 2, specifically section 3.3.3. And then it is number 3-120. So I'm going to read it and I'll go through it and we'll see how we do here. So we've got Hilda was simplifying some numerical expressions and made each of the following sequences sequences of calculations. Name the mathematical property, an operation, or idea that justifies how Hilda went from each step to the next step. Okay, so here on A is this one here. So she starts, here's the problem, right? 5 times -4/3 times 2/5. So then went from here to here. So what is the step she took? So if I look to see what's the difference, what is this to this, that 5 and -4/3 were just switched, right? So what property allows you to switch the numbers around multiplication? That is the commutative property. So I'm going to write it here. Commutative property, and it's specifically of multiplication. So I'm going to write that because you have the commutative property of addition and we have the commutative property of multiplication. So it's a commutative property of multiplication is what occurred, that these two switched. Now, from here to here, what do I notice? I notice the numbers are still in the same order, except parentheses were added around the last two. So that way, that makes you do those two first, right? It allows you to multiply out of order by saying, I'm going to multiply these two, the 5 and the 2/5 first. So what property is that? That is what we call the associative property. And specifically, again, associative property of, I'm going to put little diddle marks there, of multiplication. So there's the associative property of addition or multiplication. So in this case, it's of multiplication. Then I go to the next step. The next step is what occurred? Well, if I look to see what happened at this point, there's the multiplication occurred here, right? So we did the multiplication of 5 times 2/5. So for this step, I'll just write multiplied terms, okay? And then at the very end, once the terms are multiplied, that single fraction went to a mixed number. So we'll say then simplified. Okay, so there's the first one. There's the steps that occurred in Hilda's work. So part B here, what do we have for part B? Now for this one, grab a different pen. For this one, our first problem, the original problem is 17 plus 29 plus 3 plus 1. So from here to here, what took place? Let's see, what do I see that's different? The 17 is in the same place, but the 29 and 3 switched places. So again, what is that? What is that? When you take two numbers and you switch them around, in this case, addition, this would be the commutative property, but the commutative property of addition in this case, not multiplication, right? So we did commutative property of multiplication up here. Now we're doing the commutative property of addition. And then if I look to see what do I do from here to here? Well, from there to there, the order of the numbers stayed the same, except we're going to be adding in different orders because of adding parentheses. Those grouping symbols were added. What allows you to do that? When you have all addition and you want to now add out of order, basically you choose the order by using grouping symbols. We call that the associative property. And in this case, of addition. We're doing the associative property of addition, right? I'm going to associate these two together and associate those two together before I then add everything, right? So then my last step here, from here to here, what had occurred was the addition of the groups. I'll write that because we're taking those two groups and adding them. So the addition occurred of the groups. And then the last thing was from here to here, 20 plus 30, we just basically added each term or added both terms. Okay. So those are steps that explain what Hilda did each of those problems.